Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to English as a Second Language. I'm David, and I'm really excited to have you with me today. You know, every time I sit down to record one of these episodes, I feel grateful that we can learn and grow together through this amazing journey of mastering English. Today, we're continuing our IELTS series, and we're going to dive into a topic that I think is absolutely fascinating and incredibly relevant to all of us. We're exploring what are the advantages of lifelong learning. And this is specifically designed to help you with IELTS Part 3 Speaking Questions. Now, before we get started, I want to let you know that my good friend Tom is going to join us at the end of today's episode. He's going to review some really useful vocabulary with you in a natural, conversational way. Tom has this amazing ability to make vocabulary stick in your mind, so definitely stay tuned for that part. But first, let me ask you something. Have you ever met someone who just seemed to know a little bit about everything? Someone who could talk about history, technology, cooking, music, and a dozen other topics with genuine interest and knowledge? I bet that person was a lifelong learner. And today, we're going to explore why this approach to learning can transform not just your English, but your entire life. Let me tell you about my neighbor, Margaret. She's 72 years old, and last month she started learning Spanish on her phone app. When I asked her why, she just smiled and said, "Why not? My brain still works, and I've always wanted to visit Mexico." Margaret embodies what lifelong learning is all about. The idea that learning doesn't stop when you finish school or get your first job. It continues throughout your entire life. This concept of lifelong learning is particularly important for IELTS candidates because it's exactly the kind of thoughtful, developed response that examiners want to hear in Part 3. So, let's explore this together, and I'll show you how to discuss this topic in a way that demonstrates advanced thinking and vocabulary. First, let's understand what we mean by lifelong learning. Lifelong learning is the continuous pursuit of knowledge and skills throughout your life, both for personal and professional reasons. It's not just about formal education, although that can be part of it. It includes reading books, taking online courses, learning new hobbies, traveling to new places, having conversations with people from different backgrounds, and basically staying curious about the world around you. Persecution breeds progress, and staying curious about the world around you. Now, why is this such an important concept in today's world? Well, think about how fast everything is changing. The job I do today didn't even exist when I was in university. The technology we use, the problems we face, the opportunities available to us, everything is constantly evolving. The people who thrive in this environment are those who can adapt and learn continuously. Let me share the first major advantage of lifelong learning. It keeps your mind sharp and healthy. There's actually scientific research that shows learning new things creates new neural pathways in your brain. It's like exercise for your mind. Just as physical exercise keeps your body strong and flexible, mental exercise through learning keeps your brain active and engaged. I think about my grandfather, who lived to be 96. Until his final years, he was reading newspapers, solving puzzles, learning about new inventions, and asking questions about everything. His doctor told us that his mental sharpness in old age was largely due to his habit of continuous learning. He never stopped being curious about the world. This mental stimulation through learning can help prevent cognitive decline as we age. It can improve memory, increase focus, and even boost creativity. When you're constantly exposing your brain to new information and challenges, you're essentially training it to be more flexible and adaptable. The second major advantage is career advancement and professional development. In today's rapidly changing job market, the skills you learned 5 years ago might not be enough to keep you competitive today. Lifelong learning helps you stay current with industry trends, develop new competencies, and adapt to changing workplace demands. Let me tell you about my friend Carlos, who works in marketing. When he started his career 15 years ago, social media marketing barely existed. Instead of becoming obsolete, Carlos embraced lifelong learning. He took online courses about digital marketing, attended workshops about data analytics, and even learned basic coding. Today, he's a senior marketing director, precisely because he never stopped learning and adapting to new developments in his field. This kind of professional development doesn't just help with promotions and salary increases, it also makes work more interesting and fulfilling. When you're constantly learning and growing, you're less likely to feel bored or stuck in your career. You become someone who can take on new challenges and contribute fresh ideas to your workplace. The third advantage is personal fulfillment and self-confidence. There's something incredibly satisfying about mastering a new skill or understanding a concept that once seemed difficult. Each time you learn something new, you prove to yourself that you're capable of growth and change. This builds confidence that extends beyond the specific thing you learned. I remember when I decided to learn how to cook properly. I was in my 30s and I could barely make pasta without burning it. But I started watching cooking videos, reading recipes, and practicing every weekend. The first few months were frustrating. I made a lot of mistakes and wasted a lot of food. But gradually, I got better. Now, cooking is one of my favorite hobbies, and I feel proud every time I prepare a meal for friends. That experience taught me something important. The process of learning itself is rewarding, even when it's challenging. Each small improvement, each aha moment, each time you successfully apply what you've learned, these experiences build your self-esteem and remind you that you're capable of achieving things you once thought were impossible. Another significant advantage of lifelong learning is that it helps you develop adaptability and resilience. Life is unpredictable. Economic conditions change, technology disrupts industries, personal circumstances shift, and global events like pandemics can completely alter how we live and work. People who are comfortable with learning and change are better equipped to handle these challenges. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw this principle in action. Some people struggled terribly with the sudden changes, working from home, using new technologies for communication, adapting to new safety protocols. But others, particularly those with a lifelong learning mindset, adapted more quickly. They were comfortable with the uncertainty because they were used to learning new things and adjusting to change. This adaptability isn't just useful during major crises, it helps with everyday challenges too. When you approach problems with a learning mindset, you're more likely to find creative solutions. You're less likely to give up when faced with obstacles because you see them as learning opportunities rather than insurmountable barriers. Lifelong learning also expands your perspective and cultural understanding. When you learn about different subjects, different cultures, different ways of thinking, you become a more well-rounded and empathetic person. This is particularly valuable in our interconnected world, where we regularly interact with people from diverse backgrounds. For example, when I started learning about art history a few years ago, I didn't just learn about paintings and sculptures. I learned about the societies and cultures that created them. I began to understand how historical events, religious beliefs, and social conditions influence artistic expression. This knowledge has made me more appreciative of cultural differences and more curious about perspectives that differ from my own. This expanded perspective makes you a more interesting conversationalist and a more valuable team member in professional settings. In IELTS Part 3, this kind of broad knowledge and cultural awareness can help you provide more sophisticated and nuanced answers to complex questions. Let's also consider how lifelong learning can improve your social connections and relationships. When you're actively learning, you often meet other people who share your interests. Whether it's joining a language exchange group, taking a photography class, or participating in online forums about topics that fascinate you, learning creates opportunities to connect with like-minded individuals. These connections can be incredibly enriching. They can lead to new friendships, professional networking opportunities, or simply interesting conversations that broaden your horizons. I've met some of my closest friends through learning activities, people I would never have encountered otherwise. Moreover, when you're engaged in lifelong learning, you become someone that others enjoy being around. You have interesting stories to share, new perspectives to offer, and a positive, growth-oriented attitude that tends to be contagious. People are naturally drawn to those who are curious and enthusiastic about learning. Another important advantage is that lifelong learning can lead to discovering new passions and purposes. Sometimes we get so focused on our daily routines that we forget there's a whole world of interesting subjects and activities out there. When you make a commitment to continuous learning, you open yourself up to discovering things you never knew you were interested in. I know someone who discovered a passion for astronomy at age 50. She took one evening class just for fun, and it completely changed her life. She became involved in local astronomy clubs, started volunteering at planetariums, and eventually changed careers to become a science educator. She often says that deciding to take that first class was one of the best decisions she ever made. And these kinds of discoveries don't just add interest to your life, they can provide a sense of purpose and meaning that enriches everything else you do. When you're passionate about learning and growing, it affects your attitude toward work, relationships, and daily challenges. Now, let's think about how to discuss these advantages in an IELTS Part 3 context. The key is to provide specific examples and explain the connections between learning and its benefits. Don't just say, lifelong learning is good for your career. Instead, explain how continuous learning helps people adapt to changing job requirements, develop new competencies, and remain competitive in evolving industries. Use phrases like furthermore, additionally, on the other hand, and for instance, to connect your ideas and provide examples. This shows the examiner that you can organize your thoughts logically and support your points with concrete evidence. Practice explaining cause and effect relationships. For example, because technology is constantly evolving, professionals who engage in lifelong learning are better positioned to adapt to new tools and methodologies in their fields. Remember to consider different perspectives. You might acknowledge that lifelong learning requires time and effort, but then explain why the benefits outweigh these costs. This kind of balanced thinking demonstrates sophisticated reasoning skills. Let me give you some language patterns that work well for discussing advantages. One of the primary benefits of lifelong learning is this approach to learning tends to result in people who embrace continuous learning often find that, from a practical standpoint, lifelong learning enables individuals to the long-term impact of this commitment to learning includes these phrases help you structure your responses in a clear academic style that IELTS examiners appreciate. I also want to emphasize the importance of personal examples in your IELTS responses. While you shouldn't dominate your answer with personal stories, including a brief, relevant example can make your response more engaging and memorable. Just make sure your examples support the broader points you're making rather than replacing them. As we think about the advantages of lifelong learning, it's worth considering how this concept applies specifically to language learning. For those of you preparing for IELTS, you're already engaging in lifelong learning by working to improve your English skills. This experience gives you firsthand knowledge of how learning can be challenging, rewarding, and transformative. Your journey with English probably demonstrates many of the advantages we've discussed today. You've likely experienced the satisfaction of understanding something that once seemed impossible, the career opportunities that come with stronger language skills, and the cultural understanding that develops through learning about English-speaking countries and their customs. This personal experience with lifelong learning can actually be a strength in your IELTS interview. You can draw on your own learning journey to provide authentic, detailed examples of how continuous learning benefits individuals and society. Before I hand things over to Tom for our vocabulary review, let me ask you a few questions to help you think about today's topic. First, can you think of someone in your life who exemplifies lifelong learning? What makes them a good example? And what benefits have you observed in their life as a result of their commitment to learning? Second, what's something new you've learned in the past year, and how has that learning experience affected you? It could be a skill, a subject, a hobby, or even insights about yourself. Third, if you could learn anything new right now, what would it be and why? How do you think that learning might benefit you personally or professionally? Emily, it's sales. Hello, and welcome to the show. And finally, what challenges do people face when trying to engage in lifelong learning, and how might these challenges be overcome? These are the kinds of questions you might encounter in IELTS Part 3. So thinking through your responses now will help you feel more prepared and confident. Now I'm going to turn things over to Tom, who's going to help us review some key vocabulary from today's discussion. Tom, take it away.
Hey everyone, it's Tom here. I'm really excited to go through some fantastic vocabulary with you from today's episode about lifelong learning. These words are going to be super useful for your IELTS speaking test and for talking about education and personal development in general. So let's start with something that David mentioned quite a bit today, the word pursue. Now, when we pursue something, it means we actively try to achieve it or we chase after it with determination. Think about it like following a dream or a goal. In the context of learning, when we say pursue knowledge, we mean we actively seek out new information and skills. Here's a great example. After working in accounting for 5 years, Maria decided to pursue a degree in computer science to change her career path. Let me say that again slowly. After working in accounting for 5 years, Maria decided to pursue a degree in computer science to change her career path. Now, can you repeat that with me? Ready? After working in accounting for 5 years, Maria decided to pursue a degree in computer science to change her career path. One more time. After working in accounting for 5 years, Maria decided to pursue a degree in computer science to change her career path. Perfect. Now, moving naturally from pursuing something, let's talk about what happens when we do that successfully. We often experience fulfillment. Fulfillment is that wonderful feeling of satisfaction and happiness you get when you accomplish something meaningful or when you feel like your life has purpose and meaning. It's different from just feeling happy for a moment. Fulfillment is deeper and more lasting. For example, teaching children gave Sarah a sense of fulfillment that she had never experienced in her previous corporate job. Let's practice this together. Teaching children gave Sarah a sense of fulfillment that she had never experienced in her previous corporate job. Again, teaching children gave Sarah a sense of fulfillment that she had never experienced in her previous corporate job. Excellent. Speaking of learning and growing, another word David used that's really important is competencies. Competencies are the skills, knowledge, and abilities that make you good at doing something, especially in your work or professions, like having a toolkit of abilities that help you succeed. Think of it as being competent or capable in different areas. Here's how we might use it. The digital marketing course helped James develop new competencies in social media strategy and data analysis. Let's say that together. The digital marketing course helped James develop new competencies in social media strategy and data analysis. Once more, the digital marketing course helped James develop new competencies in social media strategy and data analysis. Great job. Now, from developing competencies, it's natural to talk about being adaptable. When someone is adaptable, they can adjust easily to new conditions or changes. It's like being flexible, not physically, but mentally and emotionally. Adaptable people don't get stressed when things change. Instead, they figure out how to work with the new situation. For instance, because Lisa is so adaptable, she quickly learned to work from home when her company switched to remote work during the pandemic. Let's practice. Because Lisa is so adaptable, she quickly learned to work from home when her company switched to remote work during the pandemic. And again, because Lisa is so adaptable, she quickly learned to work from home when her company switched to remote work during the pandemic. Wonderful. And finally, I want to share a word that really captures the spirit of lifelong learning: curiosity. Curiosity is that natural desire to learn or know more about something. It's what makes you ask questions, explore new ideas, and want to understand how things work. Curious people are always wondering why or how about the world around them. Here's a perfect example. Ahmed's curiosity about different cultures led him to learn 4 languages and travel to over 20 countries. Let's say this together. Ahmed's curiosity about different cultures led him to learn 4 languages and travel to over 20 countries. One final time. Ahmed's curiosity about different cultures led him to learn 4 languages and travel to over 20 countries. Fantastic. Those are 5 really powerful words that will help you talk about learning, personal development, and growth in your IELTS speaking test. Remember to practice using them in your own sentences and examples.
Thank you so much, Tom. That vocabulary review was absolutely perfect. Those words, pursue, fulfillment, competencies, adaptable, and curiosity, are going to serve you so well in your IELTS speaking test and in your daily English conversations. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this thought. You are already living proof of the advantages of lifelong learning. By listening to this podcast, by preparing for IELTS, by working to improve your English, you're demonstrating exactly the kind of mindset and commitment that leads to success and fulfillment in life. Remember, every question you ask, every new word you learn, every conversation you have in English is part of your lifelong learning journey. Embrace the process, celebrate your progress, and stay curious about the world around you. Thank you for joining me today on English as a Second Language. I'm David, and I'm so grateful that we could explore this fascinating topic together. Keep learning, keep growing, and remember that your English journey is preparing you not just for IELTS, but for a lifetime of opportunities and connections. I'll see you next time in our IELTS series, where we'll tackle another thought-provoking Part 3 topic. Until then, keep that curiosity alive and never stop learning. Take care, everyone.